Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
There are three keywords to today's Kattak letter. Number one, Hamid Mir, a person's name. Number two, General Rani, also a person's not name, but a name that a person is famous by, and we'll explain that to you. Third is ISI, as in Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence Organization. Underpinning all these three and our Kattak letter today is Pakistan, the country, its politics, and its power structure, which is widely now described as a hybrid government. A hybrid government is where some powers lie with the elected government, some powers lie with the establishment, which we have described many times before. It's a combination of Pakistan's armed forces, the intelligence agencies, and at some levels bureaucracy and diplomats and others who then protect Pakistan's ideology or think they protect Pakistan's ideology, and that becomes then the supreme power in Pakistan, because whoever controls the ideology also controls the rest. All the rest then become players. Now the all-powerful guardians of this ideology became very threatened when a protest took place at Pakistan's National Press Club. At Pakistan's National Press Club, the protest was about a housebreak and torture and beating up of a journalist called Asad Tur. Now Asad Ali Tur, he runs a YouTube channel. He runs a YouTube channel called Asad Tur Uncensored, where he talks about day-to-day political events. He is very popular. If you want me to draw parallels, a bit like Dhruv Rathi, who also is a famous YouTuber. The difference being that Dhruv Rathi mostly gives gyan and appeals to a much wider, younger millennial audience. Asad Tur, on the other hand, mostly holds forth on political issues, gets a lot of live issues in, and is also followed by a lot of the political watchers in Pakistan. So obviously the powers that be took a dislike to him. Three of them walked into his house at night. He says they were carrying guns and they beat him up, thrashed him. You can see the marks on him. He is in a hospital. It's been all over Pakistani media and international media also. And I will tell you what his crime supposedly was. But let me, before that, go back to the three key words. So what happened was that because Asad Ali Tur was attacked, and that had come on the top of many other such incidents, Pakistani journalists decided to hold a protest, as very often Indian journalists do, at the Delhi Press Club. So this was at the National Press Club in Pakistan. This protest took place, and at the protest many people spoke, and many of the prominent people who spoke are people who we know very well in India. We know them very well in India because of their coverage, also because of their social media presence, also because they are opinion leaders from the subcontinent and are respected across the world among all those who might have some interest in or curiosity about the subcontinent. So Munize Jahangir, she's a TV anchor. Asma Shirazi, brilliant TV anchor. You should watch some of her stuff. And you will see all their pictures. And Hamid Mir. Now Hamid Mir, who I said was one of the three keys to today's Kattak letter. Hamid Mir is today, I would say, I know it's who do you say is the biggest star in India, in Indian cinema or Indian TV at any point of time? On Indian TV, in fact, is even more troublesome, because if you name the one and only one, then you are in trouble. If you don't name the one and only one, then also you are in trouble. It's very hazardous to say who is the top news TV star, but Hamid Mir is quite up there. So he's, let me say, among the top TV stars, TV news stars in the entire subcontinent. For whatever it matters, his Twitter following is 6.4 million, right? You might find people in India on TV who have higher following than on Twitter, but remember, India is about 6 times more population than Pakistan and a lot more literate. So he is a big mega star on Pakistan TV. So he was among those who spoke at this protest, and in his speech was quite evocative. It made headlines. He said certain things, and I will just in parts quote one of his key passages. he said one day you pick up Matiullah Jan, you shoot Absar Alam. These are all Pakistani journalists who've gone through trouble. One day you pick up Matiullah Jan. Matiullah Jan was arrested earlier. I will tell you about him. You shoot Absar Alam. Absar Alam was shot. The bullet grazed his rib. Invade Asad Tur's house. Then you say one day our tanks are getting rusted. हमारे टैंकों को जंग लग रही है. So we have to make peace with India. So go to make peace with India. He is addressing the powers that be in Pakistan, saying that you think that you have so much power, you can do anything. But because he's trying, what's he trying to come to? He's trying to come to make his point, which is that we can also do certain things, we journalists, although we may not have guns and tanks and fighter planes. And he said, one day you call Madre Millat. Madre Millat is mother of the nation. Madre Millat Fatima Jinnah. Fatima Jinnah was the youngest sister of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan. One day you called Madre Millat a traitor, which is what the Pakistani army and establishment did in the mid-60s when she contested an election. And they had to make sure that she lost. So one day you called Madre Millat, Fatima Jinnah a traitor. Now you call Asad Ali Tur a traitor, he said. And he said, and then you come into our homes, right, and do this kind of stuff up, the kind of stuff they did say with Asad Ali Tur. And he said, look, we don't have any tanks, we don't have any guns, but if you can get inside our house to carry out violence or intimidation against us, we can also get into your homes and bring out the stories from your homes. Now this is getting too close for comfort of the Pakistani establishment, but wait for what's coming next. He says, whose wife shot whom inside the confines of their home, he asked. किसकी बीवी ने, किसकी पत्नी ने उसको अपने घर में ही, बंद अपने घर में ही कब गोली मारी और क्यों गोली मारी? Whose wife shot whom inside the confine of their own home, and which General Rani was behind this? Now, which General Rani was behind this? And then he goes on to say, I hope you will understand what I am saying. Now, अक्लमंद को इशारा काफ़ी होता है, but in India we may not immediately latch on to what this means, but in Pakistan, particularly in the Pakistani establishment, media, commentariat, in the general Pakistani discourse, everybody figured what it was. It was not a weapon that cut on one side. It was a double-edged weapon. So what are the two edges? One, it refers to an incident allegedly or apparently incident in the home of a Pakistani general, no less than the current reigning Pakistani chief of ISI, that is Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid. So there was a story that somebody fired at him and injured him inside his house, after which he went for treatment. Now, the reason I called it a double-edged thing is because the one edge of this is current, which is that who shot the general. Now, if you believe the whispers in Pakistan, and whispers in Pakistan are louder than anything that's published in Pakistan, and whispers in Pakistan, fortunately or unfortunately, or amusingly, at least for those who are not affected by this, amusingly, whispers are believed more than what seems to be established stories, and definitely more than official statements. So the whispers are that the general's wife, who's wheelchair bound, she shot him out of anger because he was up to some mischief outside of his marriage. Now, who it was with, etc., is not for us to speculate on. We also can't speculate on whether it's right or not. There is also a little background to it, because the general was visiting London last year. When he was visiting London last year, a Pakistani publication carried a story from outside the hotel where he was staying, that he is here on a dual purpose. One, to meet an Indian counterpart, and we know now that lots of talks have been going on between the ISI at the top level and Indian intelligence, maybe the head of RAW, maybe the Indian NSA at some point, because those talks ultimately led to the ceasefire that we have right now. In fact, today is the 100th day of that ceasefire, and you will see a story from Snehesh Alex Phillip on the print.in that our Army Chief General Narawane is right now in Kashmir reviewing the situation on the 100th day of this fragile, uneasy ceasefire, but the ceasefire has held. So these behind the scenes talks have taken place. But he said in that story that this was a visit with a dual purpose, one for these talks and second to get some medical attention. Now stories in Pakistan get very colorful, and the most colorful side of the story is that the general's wife, who allegedly fired, now none of this is confirmed but fully believed because the general spent time in hospital. She is wheelchair bound, maybe because of that, fired below the belt, and the general needed treatment. So one of the stories in the Pakistani media also said that maybe she is gone for prostate treatment or a hernia, to get a hernia fixed, etc. So this story also that was done in London was also immediately taken down, and that journalist also talks about it. So that is how this reference to General Rani came in. That is the one edge, that who shot this general, whether this general was shot, who shot this general. This is something that happened in somebody's home. You can walk into our homes and you can thrash us. We can't walk into your homes to thrash you, also because we have no weapons or no power, but we can get stories from inside your home, which means to say keep a sense of honor amongst us, because if you endanger us or threaten us physically, we can also expose your personal lives. Now that said, there is the other edge of it. The other edge of it is that in 1969-71, when the infamous General Yahya Khan was leading Pakistan, he was the Chief Martial Law Administrator. He lost half of Pakistan, more than half of Pakistan, that is East Pakistan, which became Bangladesh. He apparently had a very quote-unquote close friend, and somebody who spent a lot of time with him, and somebody who acquired great power in Pakistan in that period, and who had this storied influence in Pakistan's history. So nothing could be done until she wished for it to happen, and a lot of people who wanted things done in the government reached out through her. Now that was a woman, her name was Aqleem Akhtar. She was quite famous, glamorous, well known, and as that regime fell and Pakistan suffered the damage or the loss of East Pakistan, and a lot of introspection took place, and lot of conspiracy theories came out, and as Yahya Khan then went completely into infamy, one of the things that was held against him, and this has now stayed in Pakistan's folklore and Pakistan's sort of oral and written history, is the influence of this person around him. Her name was Aqleem Akhtar, as we told you. Then she acquired the nickname of General Rani. She was neither a general nor was Rani her name, but that is the name by which she became famous. अरे भाई किसने कराया? General Rani ने कराया होगा. So this was a quote-unquote General Rani who took down Yahya Khan, and who lost Pakistan half its country, and who represents the most decadent, greedy, debauched and corrupt side of Pakistani top military leadership. Now Hamid Mir used that metaphor to say which General Rani was this, which means which was this lady, woman inside the household of a general who shot the general. So that is the reason it's a double-edged thing, because first of all it offends the serving general who is the serving ISI chief, that's a very powerful position, and second it offends the army as an institution. So that is the reason it's like the mountain fell upon Hamid Mir, and immediately his channel took him off the air. In Jio TV, his channel is one of the better channels in Pakistan. It's also owned by people who have good commitment to free press and free media. There is a lot of free media in Pakistan. There is a dichotomy. I will come to that, and there are contradictions, just as there are contradictions in every democratic society. Is a bit more in Pakistan maybe because of its hybrid system. But the fact is that the channel took his show off the air and also issued a statement that look, we defend our anchors, our reporters, our journalists, our editors for whatever they do on the channel or in our publications, but we are not fully accountable for what they do and say outside and what has not gone through our editorial filters, not their language, but I am simplifying it. In fact, you can see their entire statement on my screen, and I will also share link with you. So basically, they've said they've not given any indication of when they will get him back on screen. So there have been lots of protests from across the world, media organizations, sympathies from journalists, also sympathies from journalists across the border, people like us. All of us have sympathized with him because जो एक के साथ होता है कल को दूसरे के साथ भी हो सकता है. And you can see in Pakistan, many of these prominent journalists are now talking on their own YouTube channels because no TV channel today can afford to have them on the screen if they want them to speak the truth. So Hamid Mir, the most prominent of them all and the most popular and the most trusted of them all, and you know Hamid Mir's credentials, what else do you need? In 2014 he was shot at by gunmen. He was coming out of Karachi airport, going to his office. On the way his car was waylaid, he was shot and he took a bunch of bullets. He took a bullet in his stomach and he took bullets in his upper legs and survived and came back to do journalism. It takes a lot of courage. In fact, I look at Pakistani journalists sometimes and say, God, mercifully, we are not being put to the same test. We have problems, but not to the same test, because I am not sure we will have the courage, even sort of the physical courage, you know, bullets coming at you, people coming into your house and thrashing you, people taking you away for 3 days, your family doesn't know where you are, or one day your body is discovered entangled in some mesh in a canal 2 hours away from the capital of your country. So those are the kinds of danger that Pakistani journalists have to face. Hamid Mir is only the latest, but let me also give you a listing, and it's a very broad listing, just a few names. There are many other cases. 2011 May, Salim Shehzad, I talked about bodies floating in canals. Salim Shehzad, journalist, his body was found entangled in ropes and a mesh in Upper Jhelum Canal. His body showed signs of torture. He'd been missing for a few days, and this is only a couple of hours away from Islamabad. April 2014, as I told you, 4 gunmen in Karachi fired at Hamid Mir, got a few bullets into his body, but you know, look at the man. He survived. Not only survived, but he did not go into exile. He came back to work, and he's been speaking the truth, or has he sees the truth since then. Then he blamed ISI chief General Zahirul Islam for this. In fact, he had said even before the attack on him that if he is attacked, then General Zahirul Islam, Lieutenant General Zahirul Islam, then chief of ISI will be to blame. So the names change, but the character remains the same, right? It is the ISI chief. Months before that, just a few months before that, somebody else, a wonderful journalist called Raza Ahmad Rumi, his car was fired at. I think his driver or maybe a guard, somebody got killed. He barely survived, and then he was advised that apna bhala chahte ho to desh chhod ke chale jao, leave the country, go into exile. He's been in exile since then in the US. He occasionally writes in Indian media also. You can also follow him on Twitter, and I had written about him in an article, in the Writings on the Wall series article I had written from Pakistan in 2014-15. And that was the article that talked about how Pakistan has become a national security state and what is a national security state. I am sharing the article with you, and I will tell you one more highlight of that article in a couple of minutes. But I had used his example to describe how in Pakistan there is a dichotomy. English media is very small. English media has a very tiny readership. Pakistan has no English TV channels. Even in India, English viewership, readership is small compared to Hindi and other languages, but it is still large and influential enough. Pakistan has no English TV channels. What's the reason? Also, if you read Pakistan's English press, particularly Dawn, Friday Times, many other publications, Express Tribune, you will really admire the freedom of speech and expression that's available there. But when you start reading Urdu, which I can't, but if you learn from people who can read Urdu, then you know that's a very different universe, and that goes to real Pakistan. This one goes to a tiny circuit in Pakistan. The Pakistani authorities also, the Pakistani establishment is quite okay with what you are saying in English, because English then again is a bonsai. It's kept in the window. Again, the Western world, the rest of the democratic world they only go and interact with English journalists, English opinion leaders, English social media influencers, and they think, oh, there's a lot of freedom. What they don't realize often enough is that the audience is someplace else. So they get the view from one side of the fence when the bull is on the other, as they say. So Raza Ahmad Rumi also was earlier doing all his work in Urdu. He started doing something in English on camera and immediately came under pressure, and then this attack took place on him and he had to leave. Then Taha Siddiqui, whose byline you see sometimes on the print.in. In fact, you see many of these bylines on the print.in. Taha Siddiqui, just 34, he was also threatened. He was also advised to go into exile. He is right now in exile in France. He also teaches there. Gul Bukhari, again a byline that you see sometimes on the print.in. She is from a distinguished military family. She was picked up from her home for being a dissident for a couple of hours at least. Nobody knew she was, and nobody could imagine at that point that somebody from a prominent military family could be treated like this. She for a long time has also been in exile, and there are other Pakistani journalists in exile. Aisha Siddiqa, one of the foremost experts on Pakistani military and strategic issues in the world, respected in the world, is in exile right now. And then there are others. There is Muhammad Taqi, who tweets as Mazdaki, whose byline sometimes you see in The Wire. There is also Hussein Haqqani, who started out as a journalist. In fact, the first time I met him, I think in 1985 on my first visit to Pakistan, he was this Karachi stringer for Far Eastern Economic Review, and later rose to become a minister, ambassador, and an intellectual now. He runs the South Asia section at Hudson Institute in Washington now. He's been in exile because they've charged him with treason. So many of these people have had to live overseas. Now, when Asad Tur was attacked, and Asad Tur said that ISI had done it, ISI actually issued a statement saying that not only have we not done it, but even this allegation is part of, this is the exact quote from the statement they issued, this allegation is also a part of fifth generation warfare. And the police chief of Islamabad said, I have cameras, we have the city safe cameras as they are called, they would have caught these guys and I will call them into account. So far nothing's happened. This is the background in which this protest took place. Now, what did Asad Tur say that angered the ISI chief, or that allegedly or supposedly angered the ISI chief? We know now what Hamid Mir said that angered the ISI chief and the Pakistani military because of his General Rani, who shot a general within the confines of his home statement. That we know. But why did somebody get so upset with Asad Ali Tur as to break into his house and beat him up? So the story is that a few days earlier on his channel, he had said that the promotion of a man called Najaf Hamid in Pakistan's Punjab had taken place because he is a brother of ISI chief Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid. Now, Najaf Hamid, poor fellow, he only got promoted from Patwari to Naib Tehsildar. It's not as if he became a general. So, two things it tells you. One, it tells you that general important है तो general का भाई भी important है, right? जानते नहीं हो हमारा भाई कौन है. But the other thing it tells you is, which is interesting, not relevant to this. This is something that people like us have been trying to say for a long time, which people don't understand. People see Pakistani army as a feudal 5-star, 7-star institution, as it might have been until, say, the times of Yahya Khan, or maybe in Ayub Khan's times in the 16th. That was the army inherited from the British, like our armies. This is not an anglicized Pakistani army anymore. This is very much an indigenous Pakistani army, where the officer corps comes from Pakistan's working classes, middle classes, lower middle classes, as much as India's. So you can see the chief of ISI, his brother is just a Patwari. So somebody might have said maybe he deserved to be promoted, or somebody might have said बेचारे जनरल साहब का भाई है, सबसे पावरफुल जनरल है, सेकंड मोस्ट पावरफुल जनरल तो है ना कम से कम ISI का चीफ, उस बेचारे को नायब तहसीलदारी बना देते हैं. So Asad Tur had commented on this. So obviously Asatur thinks and Pakistani journalist thinks that he got a playback. Now a month ago, Absar Alam, that is the other journalist. Absar Alam is the former head of PEMRA. You will see the expanded form on my screen. PEMRA is the regulatory authority for Pakistani media. It has the power to shut down TV channels if they are not following the code of conduct laid out for them. He was attacked and he had a bullets fired at him, and one bullet even grazed his rib. Now, if the Pakistani ISI attacked him and they actually fired at him in such a way that the bullet was merely graze his rib and go away, either they are the world's best shooters, in which case they should be winning a lot of medals at the Olympics, or they tried to shoot but they got it wrong, or maybe they actually tried to fire a bit away from him, a shot across the bow, but it got too close to him. But he had a bullet graze his rib. So he got into trouble. There was also another journalist, Ahmed Noorani, who was also picked up and beaten up at what is called the 0 point in Islamabad. And as that happened, after all these cases, the ISI, the Pakistani generals have insinuated that these were men having affairs with various women whose brothers or family members came and beat them up. In fact, if you see a conversation that my colleague Jyoti Malhotra has done with two of these exiled Pakistani senior journalists, that is Gul Bukhari and Mohammad Taki, it should be out tomorrow. They talk about this. They say whenever something happens, they malign you in terms of your personal lives by saying that you have a debauched lifestyle. So if you are having affairs with women from other people's families, their brothers and others will come and beat you up. That's what you expect. So if you can attack journalists based on their personal lives, why can't journalists also do it? Why do you get so het up when a Hamid Mir says, I will tell you, what if I told you who shot which general, who shot whom within the confines of their home, and who's this General Rani in this case. So that is the background of this story. There's other cases. In 2020 July, Matiullah Jan, who's also a journalist, he was picked up, kidnapped from outside his wife's school. He was released a little bit later, but the message is conveyed like that. Now you might ask me, why did Absar Alam fall foul of the establishment? Because just on the eve of the attack on him, Absar Alam is the head of PEMRA, he had recommended a ban or a shutting down or a taking down of a TV channel called Channel 92, because he said that channel was not following the rules. Now that channel was supposedly very close to the ISI and the establishment, and General Faiz Hamid at that point was the head of counterintelligence in the ISI. He had not yet become the ISI chief. He became the ISI chief only in 2019. And that was the time when it was seen that ISI was very close to Tehreek-e-Labbaik, the organization we've spoken about several times on Cut the Clutter. And Tehreek-e-Labbaik then, this was 2017, Tehreek-e-Labbaik then carried out the big gherao of Islamabad, where they wanted to destroy Nawaz Sharif. It was widely known, and many of these journalists got into trouble. They also said that it's well known that General Faiz Hamid is the one who, on behalf of the ISI, is controlling Tehreek-e-Labbaik. And you know what happened? When a peace agreement of sorts was signed between the Nawaz government and Tehreek-e-Labbaik, that pretty much finished the Nawaz government. After that, Nawaz government had no political capital left. The guarantor on that peace agreement, on that settlement between Tehreek-e-Labbaik and the Nawaz government, was none else than Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid. So I think in this one cluttered story, I tell you about Pakistan's power structure, I tell you about the courage of Pakistan's media, I tell you about the complexities of wheels within wheels, smoke and mirrors that take place in Pakistan. I also tell you where the real power resides in Pakistan, and also I tell you what is the power of an ISI chief in Pakistan, and also tell you the power of the chief of the ISI in Pakistan. So having come this far, let me conclude with something that I tell all my journalist friends in Pakistan. Because journalists in Pakistan have a lot of hazards, but some of them also do very well. Some do very well in India also, Rajya Sabha, ministers, if you become ministers, some become governors, but very few. The odd one becomes ambassador, but very few. But in Pakistan, it's quite commonplace. Maliha Lodhi was an editor, later became an ambassador to America and the UN. Similarly, Hussein Haqqani. So I say to my media friends in Pakistan, my journalist friends in Pakistan, that look, all of you, my friends, see Najam Sethi, who went through a lot of trouble, was sent to jail by Nawaz Sharif, won the Golden Pen Award at the World Economic Forum at Davos, big prestigious award, later became also the president of Pakistan's cricket board, also a minister. So I tell all my old friends in Pakistani media that in the course of time, आप में से कोई वज़ीर, कोई सफ़ीर और कोई मुशीर बन गया, और कोई तो ऐसे हैं जैसे मेरा दोस्त my friend Hussein Haqqani, who's become all three. He's been an ambassador to two countries, Sri Lanka and to the US, and also an advisor. और हम साफ़ी के साफ़ी रहे, which means a journalist. Safi is Urdu for journalist. So let me leave it at that and conclude this episode of Cut the Clutter. And let me again say once again that admire the courage of the Pakistani media. See what kind of threats they deal with and still continue to speak what they see as the truth.